several years. And I was impressed with all the good quotes, but I was wondering if anything I said was up to anything those people said. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. What else did Anais Nin write? I don't know who she is, actually. Anyone know this writer? What else does she do?
She wrote Diaries of Her Time in Paris.
Is it good?
Yes.
I don't know where.
Sexually explicit.
And the second half of the chapter is about this wonderful project that really ran for several years, in which we tried to build robots that could see and manipulate things. And all sorts of wonderful things appeared in that year. For example, one of the goal of the robot project was a very simple one. We decided that the robot would live in a world of mostly rectangular blocks, and a very simple job that a 2-year-old cannot do, but a 4 or 5-year-old has no trouble with, would be taking some particular structure. I should have brought some blocks. These are blocks, but they're not going to work. Two of these are flat on the top, so. I doubt if our robot could have built that. I didn't know about rolling. But the idea is you would build something out of these blocks, little house or more complicated structure, and our one-armed robot would try to duplicate it. And in order to do that, it had to be able to look at the scene and figure out what the scene was made of and what were the relation of the blocks and which blocks they were. And it had a big pile of them. So it had to make a plan for what it was going to do. In the very first minute of the project, Jerry Sussman wrote, we had obtained this robot and gotten the computer to control it. And Jerry Sussman wrote a program, and immediately to build an copy, an arch, and immediately it started with this block first and put it here. And in fact, Sussman's PhD thesis was a profound piece of work discussing various classes of bugs, beginning with these kind of simple ones where you do things in the wrong order. And as far as I know, there's no PhD thesis quite like it. Do you know anything, Henry? I mean, a lot of theses are about bugs in things and fixing them. But if you're looking for something to write about, you can go all the way back to 1970 and look at a couple of those theses. And generally, they were very ambitious, a whole group of them I'll discuss at some point. So you shouldn't, if you're trying to copy a structure, you have to analyze what is supporting what, and there's no point in trying to place something until its supports are in place. But how do you look at the scene and see things? And at one point in the project, there was a remarkable thing. I think it was Manuel Bloom who did this particular one, but he discovered that if you looked at the outline of a big mess of blocks, there was a good chance that by following a wonderful set of rules that he made, you could figure out what was going on. This is a great feature of working in a restricted world where the computer can know all of the objects in that world that could exist. And so you can see the process, but he wrote this program that just looks at this outline, and then it's, where did I put the death ray? Here it is. Couldn't see it because it was supported by a napkin. So it just looks at that and says, well, none of the blocks have an interior angle, so this can't be true, and those can't be true. So what'll I do about that? And you see, I could extend that line either up or this line out. Maybe it does both, I've forgotten, but it does this, and it extends this one, and presumably it tries 4 or 8 different combinations until he finds 2 that make a little more sense. So then it draws in these, and once it's drawn in those 2, see, then it can conjecture that maybe this is a block, and if so, you see, then it has to put in those 2 edges, and that works out fine. And then here's this 6-sided thing, and there are no hexagons in the blocks world, so it says this cannot be, and what could it be? And the answer is it could be that, and so forth. So we were quite astounded that you could do that well, but of course it's always a surprise. Maybe this is why mathematics works. If you look at something like group theory, here you have a little system which has 5 logical axioms, and I guess Galois is the first person to study systems that had those 5 simple axioms, and every day to this day, mathematicians around the world discover 10 or 100 new things about the consequences of what happens in that tiny world where there are objects, there's an identity object, you multiply things, they may or may not commute, that's 2 different kinds of groups, but they all obey the associative law. And so this is sort of an example of a little, where a mathematician has invented a little system that describes almost everything that can happen in this tiny world. Well, of course, the world of common sense is much larger, and people like Henry Lieberman and several others around the world are trying to, I don't know if formalize is the right word, because if you're trying to find 1 million axioms for a particular universe, then that's not, that you can't hope that will end up like mathematics. Informalized. Right. Of course, we all hope that someday all of the not many groups that are working on collecting and characterizing common sense knowledge will be able to more or less get them to all work together and start to have something that has the abilities of a 4 or 5-year-old. If you can get there, then you can get it to have all the you can get a machine that will learn enough, then it will keep getting smarter, and there's no reason to think it will flatten out the way people do. We don't know if people would flatten out. No one knows what would happen if somebody kept thinking for 500 years. You see all these expensive government projects, but you wonder why there isn't one to... Well, I don't know what to say about this chapter because it has so many strange and interesting things in it. So, it ends with a very cryptic discussion of how do you make a machine that will watch things happen for a long time and then start to predict what will come after that. And the answer is you have to develop stories and scripts and beautiful ways to summarize your experience and then find ways to fit them together. If you're writing a story, then you're not doing that sort of thing, but you're making a little world and you're inventing events in the past and future of each character and trying to get something that looks more or less lifelike to people.